Hello, good morning. My hiatus didn't last too long. I found myself inspired last night in the space between sleep 1 and sleep 2 to inspiration and yet another polarity or diametrically opposed concept, as I like to utilize in the beginnings of this work I've done with opposites, with polarities. And this was forgetting and remembering. I put forgetting here first simply due to alphabetic construct. F becomes before R after all. It could be remembering and forgetting. But I wanted to talk about, because these are of equal import. I couldn't put, even though polarities would be a plus and a minus, but I couldn't put a plus or a minus. I couldn't separate them this way. I couldn't say remembering is a plus and forgetting is a minus, or forgetting is a plus, because they're equally useful in the process of discovery, awakening. We awaken to our enlightened condition. I've grown to see that awakening is an introduction to a condition that we've always known, that's always been our birthright, that we can basically claim at any time, and that's enlightenment. Enlightenment is not an individual achievement. Enlightenment is a shared condition of being. And when you look at it closely, we all are enlightened. Yet, we will be enlightened. Enlightened in the sense that awakening is all that separates us from what we are and what we think we are. I'd like to start off by talking about remembering and forgetting, the processes, how they're interrelated, how one springs from another. And I'd like to remind you of what Adyashanti has said. The journey of awakening is remembering who and what we are, remembering what we've always known. I certainly couldn't think of better words. Thank you, Ajahn Shakti. Beautiful man, beautiful wisdom. And it's always a joy to listen to his presentations. He's such an articulate, soft-spoken, well-spoken man. So he addressed remembering. I like to go with forgetting. And what was in my mind last night? What really motivated me to grab my iPad and write down this topic, write down this title, was that my mind was playing with this. Remember to forget. And forget to remember. These were almost like phrases carved in stone. In my last night's interregnum space between sleeps. So we start with maybe here we'll start with remember to forget. Why did I find this so appropriate, so meaningful? A gift, an inspiration. Remember to forget. And it's not rocket science here. Simple is always best. Err on the side of simplicity. So this is a call to forget all that your mind has spent years in your internal dialogue telling you who, what, why. The 5 questions: who, what, why, when, where, and you add the H, how. Your mind is an amazing tool, and it's at some point in our lives these questions arise. And remember to forget the answers that our mind has come up with. A mind to me is a beautiful tool, but it's most useful when it helps you to see what is not so. Process of elimination, logical, methodical elimination of falsities. And through this process, you begin to be inspired, to intuit, to comprehend what is so. Certainly these answers don't come from the mind. But it needs to be recognized for the valuable tool in the process of elimination. I've mentioned before that when I'm looking for quiet time, the monkey mind, as some call it, when I'm looking for quiet time, a respite from the monkey time, I put my mind to task. And these tasks are always processes of elimination, scrutiny, clarity, careful examination can lead you to what's not so. Intuition, inspiration, guidance, love, peace lead you to what is so. So we started off this aspect, remember to forget. Forget everything that you thought you were, think you are, think you will become. This is the idle chatter of the mind. And sometimes it has a more devious scheme when it starts to reinforce the ego, the false sense of yourself and your place in the world we find ourselves in. So forgetting everything that you thought you knew. I've heard some people say that in the spiritual realms, that the education that they received all those years they went to school were for naught. And I'm of a little different mindset. I see it as training, sharpening, polishing the tool of the mind. Where others see waste, I see the opposite. Anything, any experience that I've personally been through has never been a waste of time. Because it can be, if you understand the nature of time in the eternal sense, the space-time continuum, that time can be sped up, time can be slowed down. Instead of the artificial construct of linear time, which is really nonsense. We watch the seconds tick by and they become minutes and quarters of hours and halves of hours and 3/4 of an hour ad nauseum. And we're told, don't waste time. Here in the culture I find myself in, this concept is drilled into the children. A dearest friend and brother once came to me and told me he's worried about his younger daughter because she would just like to lay on the bed and daydream. It's an economy trip, as I call them, a daydream. You get to go places for free. And he wanted her to sit at the desk and do her homework and emulate basically her elder sister, who was perfect in all regards as far as the expectations, the model that Chinese have for their children. She was always number one. She excelled. She didn't have to be poked and prodded. She just did what was expected of her. Probably in an effort to please more than any sincere acceptance of this paradigm. But my friend and brother was concerned about daughter number 2. And I knew in my heart that there's no such thing as time. Linear, measured time. How can you waste it if it doesn't even exist in the first place? And being a child that was deep into, and an adult I might add, deep into daydreaming, some of my best work came from this process. But it's another way of training the mind. Just as the more acceptable methodology of read, study, test is to the Chinese paradigm of what is education. As long as you're using your mind, you're exercising just as you should exercise your body. I always liked reading, and reading happened to be my mother's favorite activity. So parents out there, instead of pounding, nagging, criticizing, cursing, whatever your methodology is, whatever you do to your children, be an example of the behavior that you want them to emulate. Don't want them to smoke? Don't smoke. Don't want them to drink? Don't drink. Want them to read? Read. Want them to question? Question. What we do is much more meaningful than what we say. Just as what we are is much more meaningful than what we do. So remember to forget. Forget about yesterday. If there was lessons, if you slipped and slided and failed, or quite the opposite, if you were very successful yesterday, glean the best, glean the worst, and incorporate the best and the worst of yesterday into who you are today. The worst you need to work on, speculate, think about, consider, and do your best to do better. The best of yesterday lives within you moment by moment. You become the best of yesterday. In the moment, in the now. forgiveness, surrender is part of this process of evaluating yesterday. All the while recognizing that there was no yesterday. There really is no tomorrow. There's only now. But you did incorporate. You did embody yesterday. And I'd like to mention at this point that you can already start embodying the best of the tomorrows in who you are at this moment. So the list is long, and it's a good daily exercise to remember to forget. Be aware of the tricks of their mind. Utilize it as a tool of elimination, helping you determine what's not so. And let's turn to the other side. Forget to remember. And here we're talking about slights, perceived slights, perception of wrongdoing by others. Perception of mistakes in time. Mistake implies that you get to try again. If you think about Hollywood, take one, take two, take three. Do-overs are possible. Those of you that are golfers, take a mulligan. Yeah. So, forgetting to remember is letting go of all that is less than constructive. And constructive, I mean in the sense of useful to build upon. Now, your personal reaction to the things that may occur in your life, perhaps you hold on to these if and only if they're useful in your growth. So here we are. Forget to remember. Forget. Remember to forget is where we are here. Anyway, as you play with these, you'll see, as always, that within remembering is the dot, the seed of forgetting. And in forgetting is the seed of remembering. Both these serve you well. Make them your friend. Find comfort. Find courage because the habit of letting go may seem difficult at first, but with practice, letting go, forgetting to remember and remembering to forget, become second nature until they become first nature. They become who and what you are. As always, my friend, surrender is key to this process of remembering and forgetting. Enemies of remembering and forgetting, or enemies of us all: jealousy, anger, judgment. We should practice none of these. With surrender always closely intertwined with surrender is forgiveness. And forgiveness works best for me when I start at home, when I start with me. I forgive my trespasses, which helps to create a condition where I can truly forgive others their trespasses. It's no longer a platitude, a hollow platitude. Starting at home for me is where the true nature of forgiveness lies. Now, forgetting and forgiveness have an interesting relationship, as does the opposite, remembering and forgiving. Here's a chance to practice true forgiveness. It's not about blocking out. It's not about not thinking about them. It's about the destruction, the disappearance of these less than useful states of mind. For me, personally, forgiving within was always more difficult than forgiving without. And if I think about it for a minute, it's probably so for every aspect of my being. My mother always shared my father's philosophy with us. If you have nothing good to say about someone else, say nothing at all. And we could apply this personally. I took this as a mandate. If I have nothing good to say about myself, say nothing at all. For some reason, even though words are of questionable use, it's what we have. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that what we dwell on, we appear to become. Of course, it's an illusion. We can't be anything other than what we are. But we can appear to be the construct that words create, reinforce, direct. So every day, every breath in, remember. Every breath out, forget. Every breath in, forget. Every breath out, remember. So closely intertwined are these two concepts. These two structures are so closely related that they can be equally useful whatever way you present them. Alphabetically, as I started, forgiving and forgetting, forgetting and remembering and forgetting. So intertwined that how you put these words together seems to matter not. What the question is here is how they both, how to use them both in a constructive, creative, useful manner. And just today, just the wondering starting from the middle of the night, just the consideration of remembering and forgetting. Has been and will be immensely useful for me, and I incorporate these concepts equally as I pass from moment to moment.